Yeah, that big excavation dig that we all go on, or some people know it as the peeling of the onion, trying to find who we are after years and years of being what everyone else wanted us to be or taught us to be. You see, I always believe that the personality is given to us, no different than we give it to a dog or a cat. We talk about the dog having this personality, or the cat having this personality, or even a pig, a goat, a horse. In actual fact, they're responding to how we see them, and how we want them to be, and we are no different. And this comes into play when you're older. You start questioning some things about yourself, and so then you go on, asking yourself the questions as to why am I doing this? And it could be as simple as the job you have, the relationship you have, um, or the things you're not doing that you always wanted to do. When you were a kid, you always said, "Oh, when I get older, I'm going to have a dog. When I get older, I'm going to be this, whatever this is." But now you're an adult and you don't have a dog, and you're not doing what you always said you would do when you were a kid. So why is that? And that's because we allowed everything that we learned, basically about ourselves, from others and situations, and even people we don't know. Um, I can remember, I have a kind of memory that has flash memories. So there'll be like a memory. I don't even know why I held on to it, or why it would come up. And the reason being, as I see now, is because that memory stuck with me and became a part of who I am. So if you just have a little look at those things that people have said to you, or made fun of you, or any of those things that we just sort of tucked away, laughed it off, but if you really sat and thought about it, is it affecting you? Great. I mean, some personalities are just, no, I don't give a shit. I don't care what people say. Really, and I've met quite a few people that even with that personality, that's a cover up for really caring, for what people have said and done. So we're all sort of a mix. You have to sort of know who the basis of who you are, but your authentic self, that's who you want to know. Not the one you think you are, but the authentic one that you are, which means, oh boy, if you looked at a 2, 3, 4-year old, 5-year old, 6-year old, and if they were allowed to have a wild imagination and have fun and do, basically whatever they wanted or needed to do at that age for exploring themselves, exploring their environment, then if you can think back on what you did, then you would get to know that part of yourself, which is still alive, by the way, inside of you. And that's what you're looking for. And then that sort of translates into who you are as an adult. And if you're not that, then to take that part of yourself from that age, because we really need those ages, because they're so curious and lighthearted, and they just do what they want to do, and they, for the most part, till they learn it, they don't care what people are thinking. They just want to be loved. They just want to have fun. But basically, too, you see these prodigies that can sit down at a piano, or do a work of art, or can dance like nobody's business, or do math, or is really interested in dinosaurs, or how things work, electronics, or, oh my gosh, there's so many things. If you just watch your children, you'll see what that thread, that little thing in there that will continue to be a thread throughout their whole life, just like us. So as we continue removing the layers of the psychological and the emotional sediment from the dig, then we take those moments at a glance through old photos, and just look at those old photos and just see what you were wearing. Were you pretending? Were you wearing a cape? Were you pretending to be a teacher? Were you pretending to be a mother? Were you pretending to be an astronaut, whatever it is, look back on those things that you really played with, because really, if you think about it, not every kid is interested in dinosaurs. Not every kid wants to dress up as a model, or play with hairdos and cut hair, or wants to be a psychiatrist or a teacher. This is the thread that you come in with, that you go, okay, this, I'm going to play with this. It just comes out, it seems like out of nowhere. Or someone likes to play the drum, or somebody likes to pick up a guitar or play a piano. This comes from a basic sort of instinct that they came in with. And if you allow it to grow, you'd be amazed at where they would take that, even though it may not make sense. And you think back on your life, and what could you have done? What are you doing now that sort of resonates with back then? I know I always pretended to be the teacher, always wanted to be the teacher, always had to be the teacher. All depends on who was playing with me, right? But playing teacher, I loved it. I loved marking them. I loved doing that little red marker in the corner. I loved making the lessons up. I just loved all of it, and it was really a lot of fun for me. May not be for the students and the other kids that were playing with me, but that's what I really like to do. I also like to make a tent, and I used to make lots of tents in my backyard. And then I used to take cardboard boxes, and I used to make my stove and draw that with a marker, the 4 burners in the front. And then I would make a table, and I would put a little thing of flowers and a vase on it, and I would really, really decorate this little tent like a home. And these are the things that I really like to do. I used to pretend cooking, and I loved little dishes, and I loved frying pans, and I loved all my little cooking utensils. I still do. I still think they're cute. But, for me now, I see it, if you meld it together and look at it through an adult's eyes, I pretty much do that. I redesign people's inner worlds. I teach anything that I know, anything that I've learned, and anything I think that works. I will share this with people so that they can get through, the stuff that we all collect, and becomes maybe a chore in life, or it becomes a block. But once we go back and we see these things, and that's basically my job, is to see the core issues. And so this is kind of the whole journey. So if you wore capes and you want to be a superhero, well, are you helping people today? Did you dress up as a nurse? Did you dress up as a doctor? Did you have a little doctor's kit? Are you a doctor or a nurse, or in some way now transform that into some other way of helping people? It's just about looking at it and then flipping it. And it's accepting who you are today in this life until you figure it out. But really, it doesn't matter what you're doing right now. Just play with this. It doesn't mean you have to quit what you're doing and rearrange your whole life. It just means this is going to give you something to play with and to see if this would fit somehow. So if you write it all down, write down all the things you used to play with, your favorite toys, the favorite imagination, even your favorite little TV shows and cartoons, and just write those down and see if you can see a little thread that runs through your life. And maybe you are doing that today, or maybe it's something you always wanted to do but somehow got redirected in your life, and now you're doing something you're not really happy with, which is probably why you're listening to this, because if you're happy, you're probably not listening to this. So if you find that thread, then just sort of look at the story that it can shape and put it together, no different than I did for myself. I'm surprised at what I do. I would never expected this. I didn't chart this out for myself, but inevitably it was what I ended up doing. It's just something that came natural. It's something that I love to do. Um, and I can think of I can look back on my life and see all the things that led me to this. It wasn't that it was all handed to me. There was all kinds of things that I went through, but now I know that it was to understand what that really felt like. So it's not like I read a book or a ton of books to find out what this feels like. I actually lived all of what I teach. So it's the same for you. Look at over your past, if you're stuck today, and just see what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And what feels good is a huge pointer to what you really want to be or do. Because today I love that there's no rules to fashion. You can wear checkers with stripes and polka dots um, with squares, and it doesn't matter anymore. There are no rules to anything. You see millennials today who are making millions and millions of dollars because the bridge, the ceiling has been lifted. There are no rules for anything anymore. There are people with, at one time we all thought everybody had to have a degree to be anything, to teach anything. That's not true. Life experience is just as valuable as going to school, academic school. So wherever you are, it's accepting who you are, it's embracing who you are, and it's moving that into what do I want to do and how do I want to spend my life, and just this is just the first step. Just playing, writing it down, seeing where you're at, and then we can move on to the next step, which is, the courage to actually move into it. You may just skip right to it. You might just go, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't see this. This is what I've always wanted to do. This makes total sense why I have these yearnings, this pull, and I meet these people, and all my friends are around me that do certain things similar to this. You may just like have an aha moment. And then if you don't, that's okay too, because at least you're writing down and you're having or seeing the thread and starting somewhere. And then that will take you to the next part of yourself. So it's really, really important that we start somewhere. So, ask yourself some little questions. Excuse me. What happened to that sense of importance that we had when we were a child? We always thought we were the center of the universe, and how and why can we reclaim it? What is the creative excursion for, maybe you go to a thrift shop, maybe go buy that little costume or outfit. I mean, anything just to relive it or relive it in your mind. Like I said, there are no rules anymore, and we have to really stop pretending and thinking that there are, and listening to people who say, the rule keepers, you can't do it this way, it has to be done that way. That doesn't make sense. This only makes sense. Well, that's their world. We don't have to live in their world, and if you live in that world, you can change that, because then you have freedom, and it's all about freedom, isn't it? It's about free to be who you are. It's about free to feel what you're feeling. So to me, I think that's the most important thing in the world is freedom, to be who you are. And I can't express enough that I feel like I would say a totally different person than I was, 30, 40, 50 years ago. But I'm not. I am the person I was always meant to be. And it feels good. And I just want that for you. So start with this. Start in that little place and just see where you go. But play with that child, 9 and under, because that is where a lot of our answers are. Go ahead and do it. It's great.